Have you checked out our response videos for season 1 of Love is Blind and the ultimatum, marry or move on? After watching and commenting on those, we felt so bogged down that this delightful Netflix series, Love on the Spectrum, was so refreshing. Everything from the whimsical music to the way they taught each participant the basics of dating etiquette was naturally uplifting and easy to find timeless truths. Jeff's son Errol said that Love on the Spectrum is probably the most real relationship reality TV show there is, and I agree. Before we dive into the many wonderful things we'd like to highlight for you, please take a quick moment to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us reach more people who could benefit from our uplifting content.
This video is sponsored by Canyon Foot and Ankle. From simple nail care to advanced trauma and reconstructive care, their podiatrists have the training and the skills needed to resolve even the most complex cases. Treat your feet to the exceptional care they deserve.
Getting back to the basics of chivalry and good conversation, which we can never get enough of, why aren't more relationship reality shows this uplifting? Why do they leave me feeling anxious and bogged down? Is it possible that people on the spectrum have advantages in the realm of building relationships? I do think they do. The strengths I have seen in the people who have participated in this show, Love on the Spectrum, they're not ashamed to be authentic, to express and be sincere about their intentions.
Love matters even to people who seem disconnected. They have the same yearning for basic human connection that the rest of us have.
Straight out of the gate in episode 1, autism expert Jennifer Cook works with Abby, who kept interrupting her with all of her questions. She was excited about this prospect of dating and wanted to know everything there was about it. And I love the way this coach and expert on autism worked with her. And what was really awesome is this expert is autistic herself. And she is married and has 3 children, and Abby thought that was the most amazing thing she'd ever heard. So she's a really good role model for the people she works with.
This is what she said. She said that when you're dating, all you're really doing is making a friend. And I want to add to that, I've told a lot of people that myself, that, you know, people say I hate dating, and it's because they're worried about playing some kind of game. And really, all you're doing is meeting new people and becoming interested in their stories and the things that they can teach you and the things they have to say. I think she's right that when you're dating, you're making a new friend and you're seeing how that develops.
And what's really interesting is she went on to say, you want to talk about things that you want to talk about and make sure that there's room in the air for the other person's words. And that was a really great comment that I think we could all take a lesson on. In addition to telling Abby this and showing her on a clipboard, she also uses this object lesson of throwing a bunch of balls across the room on the floor to Abby. Take a look at what happens.
I'm gonna roll a bunch of them. Ready? Yeah. So what do you like to do? What's your favorite color?
My favorite color
Do you
is...
like dogs?
Yes, my favorite color
What
is
do you like to
pink.
eat tomorrow?
That's a lot of questions.
It is a lot of questions.
Okay, so in this clip, she's throwing a bunch of balls and a bunch of questions, and then Abby's like, that's a lot of questions, and
Abby
she feels
can't.
really overwhelmed.
Abby can't answer them all.
And so she gets frustrated, and then her coach says, it is a lot of questions, you're right. And then...
So she's teaching her how to pace the conversation so she can keep up and the other person can keep up.
And also to take turns. So now that they've moved to one ball, back and forth, taking turns, this is the clip at the very end once she sees this going back and forth.
Well, I think a lot of determination. Do you think so?
Yeah.
Do you know what you just did?
What?
You just had a conversation with me.
Oh my God!
So basic, and yet, even for neurotypical people on dates and in marriage, it can be so hard for us to take turns. To create good conversation between you and your partner, imagine rolling that ball back and forth. We've found a talking stick to be helpful sometimes when both of us want to be heard and understood, but neither of us really wants to listen. And I think, when Cathy and I start to talk over each other and compete for talking time, we know somebody's triggered, maybe both of us.
That ball going back and forth is a really good visual for us all learning how to take turns better.
It's almost like a metronome for a conversation. It gives you an idea how to time your comments so that both of you get a chance to talk.
Now, Kaylin is a really cute girl, and she's talking to her friend about her experience with speed dating, which I actually thought was awesome. I really liked the speed dating opportunities that they gave these participants. And this is what she says.
Did you tell any of them your diagnosis?
No.
You don't think you'd want to disclose that information?
It's just I don't know, bad things tend to come of it.
A quick comment about that. We all have to decide when we have personal things we don't like to share with everyone, when and how to share. Now, we tend to think that earlier on is better, but not always. So it takes wisdom and practice.
Danny, a 27-year-old girl on the spectrum, is talking to her mom about breaking up with her first match. This is the conversation they have about this sensitive topic.
I'm a little nervous. I don't want to break Solomon's heart.
Better to do it now than to do it later.
Okay.
Just like a band-aid, you get it really fast. But
Okay.
if you do it really slowly, then it hurts more.
Danny's parents were encouraging her to give him a call and tell him directly, and she did. She was very brave.
Steve is your favorite. Why don't you talk about him?
Steve is 63, and he was only recently even diagnosed with autism. And this is what he said about himself.
I might be a little goofy, I might be a little bit weird, but you know what? The intentions are always good.
Elaine Hall, Steve's life coach, is trying to help him prepare to start dating. And she believes her work is to help him let go of the shame that society placed on him and which he internalized when he didn't really know anything about his neurodiversity. And so his coach had him write a letter to his future lady, and it says a lot of deep and interesting things, but mostly Steve is saying he wants to be with someone where the two of them together can help bring out the best in each other.
I loved that letter and that exercise that she had for him to get very intentional about what he was looking for. And this is what his coach had to say about him.
Steve's life had become very small, and he had given up on all the dreams and wishes he had had. One of which was to be in a relationship. Steve does need support, but I don't think that's going to get in the way of him having a very meaningful relationship. And I really believe that there was a part of him that thought that would never happen for him.
How many of us play small? Smaller than we have the potential to live up to. Think about that. As you go about your life, in what ways are you living small, and in what ways can you step into your power and do a little bit more to build towards the life you want?
I don't know why that reminds me of James. I thought he was so annoying when we first started watching the show, but he actually grows on me a little bit. He's got a lot of energy, and that's part of what at first is a little off-putting. But anyway, he was talking with his friends after his first date. He says, "If at first you do not succeed, try again." That's the famous phrase. And James says something that kind of shows his resilience. Here's the clip.
If at first you do not succeed, try again. That's the famous phrase.
I like that phrase a lot. The key is you just don't give up. You keep looking for that fish in your ponds.
That clip reminds me of when my oldest son said to me, when he was 4 or 5 and I started dating after his dad and I had divorced, "Don't worry, Mom, there are plenty of fish in the sea."
Persistence is the key for all of us, though, not just those on the spectrum. Really, I don't want to be unromantic, but dating is a numbers game. And that's not a terribly romantic idea, but I think it's the truth. And if we continue to explore new opportunities, eventually we're going to land on a good one.
This is what Danny had to say on attraction.
Is there an instant attraction? No. However, that's not the only thing that's important to me, and sometimes that develops over time.
That seems to be true for many people that we know. One thing I want to say about Danny is I just had to crack up every time she talked about guys she dated and what she was looking for, She is very dyed-in-the-wool, stubborn about she wants to be with someone else who also wants to work in the animation business, which she wants to work in.
Well, at first it was, I just want someone who has passion and is business driven like me. And eventually it morphs into, and I also want them to have my same passion.
Right.
Which I think keeps her perpetually kind of stuck.
Right.
But she does end up dating someone who really likes what she does, which is awesome. Like Jeff said, my favorite person on the show is Steve. I thought he was such a nice guy, and personally, I could actually see myself dating someone like him. He's genuine, complimentary, loving, sentimental. He is a lot like Jeff in those ways. His really good friends say that after they spend time with him, they always feel really good, and they bring good energy to each other. I think in general, Jeff, I would get along pretty well with a lot of these autistic people on this show because they're literal and they're sincere. And I don't love sarcasm. I don't think it's great for relationships. And I also really like structure and routines.
Yeah, you know, my favorite person on the show was Abby. She's still together with the boyfriend that she met through being set up on the show. They love adventures and animals. I guess David's family took them to Africa. The thing I like about Abby, though, is she has a sunny and good-natured personality. You just can't imagine her saying anything negative. And she really, really likes David. And a lot of people could look at him and say, well, he's pretty limited. But, you know, she sees the good things in him, that he's solid and that he cares for her. So that's what I liked about Abby.
And I've noticed that Abby's mom was very, very pleased through this whole process to have her daughter with a partner who felt safe and good and who could take care of her after she's gone. And that's something that more than one parent had expressed, is that they wanted their kids to have a partner so that when they passed, they would have someone that they could rely on.
Speaking of Abby and David, we have a little clip for you that I think we could all learn a little something from. Simple and yet profound. Here it is.
So, would you like to be my girlfriend?
Yes. Would you like to be my boyfriend?
Yes.
Thanks.
It doesn't get any more sweet or simple than that. Each person asks a question, and each gets to choose. And in this scenario, they each got to be chosen, which is one of life's greatest gifts.
Let me tell you something kind of funny about that. We have all kinds of people that ask us questions about, how can I know if somebody likes me? How can I know how committed somebody is? Or we'll even see people get upset because they went on one date with someone and that person is dating someone else also, and they think it violates some unwritten code. This all kind of treats dating like a game. And what is the game? It's trying to find love without risk. It's trying to not put your heart out there where somebody can hurt you. Well, these folks on the spectrum didn't think that way. They just kind of put it out there. I'd like you to be my girlfriend. Oh, really? That's great. I'd like you to be my boyfriend. Great. And that's it. And, you know, if we could all be a little more like that, this business of getting into relationships would be a lot simpler, a lot easier.
I wish all of the other relationship shows that are for neurotypical people were more like this. Honestly, I think we could all use basics when it comes to getting into the dating world and moving through it. And I also think it would be nice to keep it this simple, where they didn't have an agenda. There wasn't an end in mind. They just let these people come on the show, explore their relationships, and be who they are.
And if we weren't clear enough, if you don't have one person saying, I would like to be in a relationship with you, and the other person saying, me too, you don't have the ingredients. That is ultimately what a relationship is and how you define it.
Mm-hmm. And it is simple. I love that clip where Abby and David become boyfriend and girlfriend, and they are still together. Like 2 years later, they're doing great. Being chosen by someone who you love, who also loves you, is one of life's greatest gifts. Have you seen Love on the Spectrum? What are your thoughts about the show, season 1 specifically, or even what we shared here in this video? We want to hear your thoughts. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, remember that any time is a great time for more love in your life.